This is the future. Evolution.
The Crossing Realms Conference launches September 19th and 20th and will dock in Richmond, Missouri. This is already being called the event of the year, folks. With an unprecedented list of speakers and special guests, 2 days of cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal presentations, along with a celebrity-filled ghost hunt, meet and greet, gallery reading, vendors, and a film screening. This promises to be both educational and fun. Go to Eventbrite.com to secure your tickets and vendor slots before they are all abducted. They're going fast.
Well, hello, everybody. I must tell you, I do have to apologize. Yeah, typically we do the late night show on Saturday nights. And I typically have the Blondes and the Booze, Krista, Brandy, Monica's on vacation, sometimes Tex. But you know, I had a power outage earlier today. Now, before I get into that, for everybody that was in that tornado belt the other day, yesterday, Missouri, Arkansas, all the way up through the Midwest, man, it ripped through, the United States. And first of all, prayers out to those folks that suffered any of that catastrophe out there. as y'all know, Kristen and Brandy, they were right there. They were right in the middle of all that chaos with the tornadoes. They're both fine. I didn't expect to do a show tonight because I expect to get power. My power company told me that, hey, you'll be getting your power back like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I've been out with power since about, I don't know, it went out in the afternoon, late afternoon, early evening. Now, it wasn't because of tornadoes, but I guess we're getting some of the effects because we had these wind gusts that were 60 miles an hour, and they would gust, and they literally would kind of blow you away, right? And in fact, one of my barbecue units that I had sitting outside, I have a nice nylon cover on it. The wind blew so hard, you guys, that it literally ripped the nylon cover off my grill, and it flew like almost 50 yards into the air. Boom, gone. I went out to look for it to recover it, and I couldn't find it, and it was just so windy. Did not have a tornado. I mean, I was good, but then the power went out. I'm like, oh man, because you guys know BMR, I get power outages as often as the sun rises. It seems where I live. Poor infrastructure around here, and all of my cable lines, all my internet lines are above ground. They're not underground. They're not fiber optics. And they got snapped. And then the poor guys that were trying to repair the power outages, they're up on these big, tall ladders, and it was just too windy, and it was hindering their work, right? So it took longer than expected. I just got my power back. I usually start this show at 11, right, on Saturday. It's 1 o'clock in the morning currently where I'm at, right? And yeah, it was something else. So, but anyway, you guys, appreciate you guys for hanging out and coming on in. It's a little different late night how we typically do with the gang, because I told them all, hey, take the night off. I don't plan on going on, but I was just sitting around. The power went on, and I was kind of bored. It's Saturday night. I'm not really doing anything. So, yeah, I thought I'd just do this for you guys. So thank you to everybody for coming on in. I appreciate it. And before we get started, I got like 3 pretty cool. So I'm doing a format tonight. I got some stories, encounter stories, true cryptid encounter stories I've got from folks that you guys seem to like. I usually do these on like Fridays, and I didn't do it Friday because of we had some family things I had to take care of. So I did not do that Friday. So I said, impromptu. Well, I'm on Saturday, so I decided to tell you guys some stories, encounters for people from some emails that I got over the last couple of years that I haven't really brought out. So you guys like this. I'm pretty sure you will anyway. And yeah, so I decided to what the hell, 1 o'clock? Why not just do a show? Because I hate missing shows unless I only miss shows for power outages and stuff like that. So before I bore you with my bantering on and on, thanks to everybody for coming on in. Of course, thanks to everybody for buying my books out there. They're out there. I got to promote these books, you guys. Bigfoot Michigan Rob presents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1, Book 2. They're found on Amazon. Just type Bigfoot Michigan Rob in your Amazon browser. I appreciate you guys. If you're new to this show, please, of course, subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. Like the show. I appreciate it. I see Gary Spikes. Good to see Gary Spikes back up and running. I haven't seen you a couple of days. Hopefully you're out of the hospital, Mr. Gary. So I appreciate that. Don't forget, everybody, if you'd like to contribute to the show, the super chat is, of course, always open. I appreciate that. Of course, you can become a BMR pirate. Join today, mateys. Join the many, join the few. As I always say, it depends, of course, on your point of view. I got about 120 of you that have subscribed or joined the memberships. Thank you. You get a picture of me with my bandana in the chat room. You guys know the rules. You guys know how it goes. Hey, Christy Sci-Fi, good to see you. Gary Spikes, as I said, Keith from Michigan. Riley Ron, I love you, Riley Ron. He always leaves great comments. Bobby, Jojo from Australia. Amy Creel, matey. She's been a member for a long time. Southern Bell, hey, Southern Bell, how you doing? There's about 40 of you already piling in. I appreciate it. If I didn't miss you guys, I'm sorry, because I love each and every single one of you. Oh, what do I got here? I got something going on here from, whoa, my lovely Christy. Hi, Christy. Christy Sci-Fi is a Bigfoot magnet. I've known Christy for quite a long time. We're great friends. I love Christy. She saw a picture of my bus that I wanted to buy and turn it into, what was it, Christy? I was going to call it, I don't know, I forgot. It's this bus that I was going to gut and put this equipment and take it on Bigfoot adventures. Christy knows what I'm talking about. We laugh about that. Thanks, Christy. Love you. Great way to start the night. I'm glad you're okay too, because I imagine you had a lot of weather where you were, Christy. So thank you so much for that, honey. Appreciate you. I appreciate all of you guys for coming in. So yeah, there's some of these. So yeah, I'm gonna get us started, you guys. Not to bore you. I know it's late for some folks out there. 1 o'clock for me, depending where you are out there. So yeah, I've got Christy, actually, she's in Louisiana. It's kind of fitting. I got this email from this guy, and about something he came across in the state of Louisiana. And in the email, he goes on to tell me, oh, really briefly, I see somebody else poured in a super chat. Mark Z Hammer. Mark, thank you for that. Thanks for the love and the support. I do appreciate that, brother. Thanks to Mark. He's been a member of the channel, a subscriber for quite a while. Thank you to Mark. So, reverting back to this encounter, I got a couple, 2 or 3 for you guys tonight. I got nothing better to do. Hopefully, you don't either. So, thanks for coming on in. So, in this email, this guy says, Rob, this was in the early summer of 2001. And this guy in the email says, hey, he goes to make mention, well, I'm going to call myself Steve for this email. He also is going to address his brother as Ron. He went on to tell me he really made up the names, and I get it, because most of his emails I get, everybody wants to be anonymous. And he says there, back in the early summer, again, of 2021, Ron and Steve, they were hiking back in the bayous of Louisiana. I guess they're alligator. They hunted. I guess alligators or crocodiles, whichever it is that you folks have down there. And he went on to tell me that he's not giving the exact location of where he was at for this, that, and the other, which I appreciate that. And he says that where he lived in this area, he's been there a life longer of Louisiana. And he wanted to tell me, hey, Rob, in this section where he lives, he said that many of the folks that live there, they've been spooked for decades in this little community. At the time of this experience, Steve goes on to say that he was 32 years old. And he said, Rob, I've been waiting to email you this encounter for many months. I've been watching your channel, and I feel comfortable with how you present other people's encounters. He says, today, at the date of sending me this email that today, everybody, he is 53 years old. Okay, so it's been many, many years have passed by since he's told this encounter story, and I'm very appreciative that he sent it on to me. Rob, this is the first time I've written about this, but I've been waiting for a source to send this to you, and I decided to send it on to you. I don't want to go on anybody's show, this, that, and the other. I'm to myself, and this is the way that I'd like it to be. And I respect that, you guys, as you well know. If you want to send me an encounter at BMR at gmail.com, I will tell it for you if you like. So he goes on to say that him and his brother, he and his brother went out and they took their swamp boat deep into the bayou looking to do some gator hunting. And he says back then his boat that they used, you guys, was very loud, very distractive. And because of this, when they came close to the hunting area, they would shut down the boat and they would simply just drift for hours to ensure that the disturbance of the engine of their boat would be not heard by whatever they were seeking. And I guess in this case, hunting for gators, right? He went on to tell me that, Rob, this location had been deemed taboo and that many strange hauntings plagued this area. And again, he's reluctant to tell me the exact area. So for you, those folks from Louisiana, like Christy, I know is, maybe you've heard of this, maybe you haven't. I don't know. Let me know. Leave a comment later. He goes on to say that many a man has come back shaken and confused out in this area. And they very seldom would even speak about what they came across. I guess in the little village or the little town in the bayou area, again, wherever they live, I'm unfamiliar. I personally don't even know if they have villages in Louisiana in these bayous. I guess they're small, tight knit communities. I guess you guys. He was talking with this old man of the area. He says his name is Jasper. I don't know if he made up the name Jasper, but that's the name that was given. And he was talking with old man Jasper, and he was talking about him and his brother, Steve and Ron. These are the two guys involved with this story. They're brothers. Was talking to Jasper about an area that they had planned to travel and explore and do some gator hunting. Old man Jasper, upon hearing about where they were going to go, urged him to not to go to that particular area on the bayou. In fact, he implored him and his brother, pick any other spot, but not that one. Bobby Yancey, Sissy Lawson, as y'all pour on in, Crystal J. Good to see you guys. Thank you so much. So this Ron, this Steve, I forget which of the two brothers, went on to tell me in this email that they were always intrigued and respected old man Jasper and the legends and the stories that he told them, not only them, but the entire community. When Jasper told these two brothers about not going there, these two younger guys, again, back during this time in 2021, they're in their early 30s. And Rob, I must tell you that the old guy got our juices flowing. Okay. Despite what this guy said about not going to this area, we now definitely want to go. So they go out, they venture in this mysterious part of the bayou. Rob, we got to our spot about 5:30 in the morning. Like they always did. They shut down the motor of their very loud boat. And they drifted down the swampy waterways for about an hour. Now they're drifting and they're occasionally everybody pulling out a paddle just to keep the boat in line with where they were drifting, to steer away from getting caught on any of the above. You know how a lot of these swamps are very swampy. You get caught on a lot of the vegetation growing from the bottom of the bayou or the river streams, the lakes, whatever. And they were just in line with the tree line in the background. And then they noticed that as they were drifting along in this area, that the brothers looked at each other and they had said that the area they're in all of a sudden got very chillingly silent. He goes on to say that, Rob, you know that there's always some sounds in the bayou. You always hear something. Whether it's rodents from the wood line, the smattering of fish jumping about the boats, maybe gators going off of the top of the tree line and going into the water, the birds. He goes, it was very ominous because we did not even hear birds. Now the sound could be heard. It was a very warm day, he goes on to describe to me, but he couldn't get this chill out of his body. Steve or Ron, the two brothers. And he further explains, he's very emphatic about this. He goes, this never happens in the swamp. It's always hot. It's always humid. This particular day, despite that they're having chills roll down their bar, Melissa, hi, Melissa, that they were just starting to sweat unusually more so than often. Rob, the sweat is pouring like buckets off of us, guys. Yeah, it's hot and humid, as he says, but man, we were just chilled, but our sweat just profusely came out of our pores. And it was a cold sweat, not a hot sweat from the heat of the day. As he said, this is a very different feeling. He says the sweat was so cold that he felt like he had ice cubes being dripped down his back. Him and both his brother. So this guy, Ron, he looks over to his brother, Steve. And Steve was actually shaking from the cold sweat in this hot, humid day. So everybody think about this for just a moment. Never been in Louisiana. Oh, I was in Louisiana once. Very hot, very humid. I mean, I remember walking in Louisiana, I just sweated, and just walking, right? And these guys they live here, it's their hometown, and their sweat was cold. Steve says to Ron that he wants to turn back. He feels something is not quite right going on here. Steve goes on to tell his brother Ron that something is lurking from the boggy shoreline, and he says it feels very unnatural. I'm Paranormal Oz. Hey, everybody, if you're new here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube. Give me a thumbs up if you would. Thank you. So Steve is kind of like with his brother. He says, "Hey, Rob, certainly with the both of us being very cold, this just wasn't right. Something was out of place here." Steve then decides that his brother Ron was right, and they went back now to start up that very noisy boat and get the hell out of there. These two men, avid, know the area. They're gator hunters. They live there. Whatever this reason is, whatever this ominous presence is that they feel, they decide it's time to get out of Dodge. Then the most peculiar thing happens. Hey, Marion, how you doing? They go to start up the boat, and the boat wouldn't turn over. The boat wouldn't start. It would not start up. Rob, I tried this for several minutes went by. It was probably 3 or 4 minutes, Rob, but it seemed like it took forever, an eternity, because they're at the point where they're so scared that every minute felt like an hour. And he's just trying to get this boat started. Whatever it is, they need to leave. Then, from the shoreline of the swamp, they heard a sinister, as he explains to me, almost witch-like laugh. And he says, Rob, this laugh was not like no other. It wasn't like an actual woman. It wasn't a woman that was desperate or in peril or in danger, but it was almost this laugh that seemed to mock, literally mock, both Steve and Ron. Rob, I'm feeling all uneasy already alongside my brother. And the shrilling laughter got louder and louder. And the laughter, everybody, seemed to get closer and closer. And yet the boat is still not starting. Both brothers look towards the edge of the swamp line, the edge line, wherever it drops into the bayou, I imagine. And they're trying to now kind of look now for the source of this shrilling, mocking laughter. Yes, they're still scared. Yes, the boat's not starting. They're trying to start it. But now, I guess, they're getting a little bit, maybe shock is rolling in, but now they just need to know where the source of this laughter. I think we all would be doing the same thing, especially when there's something that is very unfamiliar, a first time happening to us. So they're trying to start the boat, but they're looking, and this shrilling laughter is getting closer. Then Steve says, Hey, Rob, and suddenly he sees a figure. And he says, This figure at first glance appeared to be that of a man. But he said, This man, though, Rob, it had the head of a giant dog, or perhaps even like a wolf, he says. He says this creature, whatever you want to call it, had jet black hair. It had high pointed ears and a long snout, much longer than any dog or any wolf that he had ever seen. So as I was reading through this email, everybody listening on in, and thank you for coming on in. I personally reading found it a little peculiar. I mean, I'm hearing and thinking that there might see maybe a witch, maybe, or maybe some voodoo doctor. I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. Something. I'm not thinking as he's telling me this, he's going to say this. I'm thinking again, the laughter of a witch. But now he says it's some sort of human with a wolf's head. So he says now this creature now decides to walk parallel to the shoreline. He says, Rob, man, it's on two legs. And it appeared to be carrying something. Hey, Woo Dog, good to see you. Riley Ron, how you doing? Thanks for everybody for coming in. Hi, Hans. I can't see everybody, of course, telling the story. I'm trying to concentrate and remember it. Love you all. Thank you. Give me a like if you're new. Please subscribe. BMR. Got my power back. So I'm starting late tonight. But again, two legs, paralleling now, I guess, the swamp line, carrying something, this creature. Now he says, Rob, I really can't clearly see what it is that's being carried by this, whatever this is, he says. He then says, now this beast, this creature now disappears back deeper, back into the swamp's edge. And then it now is out of sight. No longer sees this thing. It was Rob. For a minute there, I was so enthralled by this spectacle, what I'm observing with my brother, that I totally forgot. And for a few minutes, didn't even try to start up my boat. So now he collects his thoughts. This creature's gone. He now goes back and tries to start up the boat again. Still keeping his eyes on the shoreline. Then suddenly, what appeared to be, everybody listen to this, what appeared to be the dead carcass of an alligator flew out from the shoreline, landing not less than 3 feet from the boat. Okay, everybody, all of a sudden, creature's gone, disappears, can't see it, then something, an alligator, I guess, as he says, is now flung from the swamp's edge, hurled toward them, and it's a carcass of an alligator. He goes, the gator's jaws were snapped backwards, and its bowels were hanging out of the body, just hanging. So I guess it was gutted. Him and his brother are horrified. Then he says, Rob, me and my brother, we look back into the woods, into the shore, into the depths of the bayous. Thank you, Maggie. Maggie. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate you. Thanks to everybody. Yeah, right, Hans. I'd have left too. Good night, BJ Lapierre. Good to see you. I didn't see everybody. So, anyway, getting back. Thanks, you guys. So, so the guy's horrified. Looks back now into the swamp line, and guess what starts up again, everybody? That laughter starts up again. Now I'm thinking, okay, at the beginning when I was telling you guys about that laughter, that weird laughter that seemed to be mocking these two guys. Okay, I get it. Then this wolf-like creature appears, disappears. The dead carcass of an alligator is now thrown towards them, bowels taken out, extended out of the body. And now I'm thinking that maybe, just maybe, since they described this as being a man with like a wolf's head, I'm thinking now they're going to hear the howls, right, of a wolf. But no, the laughter starts up again. And it's that same laughter from apparently some sort of witchy woman, as he said earlier. The witchy woman, then all of a sudden that laughter mocking them again, it kind of dissipated and faded back into the tree line. Again, it goes back to start this boat, which now has not been, they've been trying to start this boat, and they finally, they get it started. They finally get the boat started, and they sped back out of the area to where they both now felt safe. He goes on to tell me that, hey, Rob, you know what? I don't know what we came across. I can't explain any of this. But I tell you what, me and my brother, for the first time in our entire lives, gator hunting, living in this community, in this bayou of Louisiana, says that today they think they came across something evil, as he says. Rob, we're going to go back and talk to old man Jasper and hear more of his stories, the folklore, the mysteries, and pick his brain as to if he has any idea of what these two guys came across. Now, they came across this in 2001 in their 30s. The guy sent me this email, said he's 53 years old. I've tried to email the guy back and see what old man Jasper said. I'm guessing old man Jasper's dead by now, because I'd like to follow up. I'd like to hear more. So I've tried to reach back with this guy, and I got this email like last year, I think it was. I get a lot of emails, you guys. If anybody sends me one and I don't respond, and there's many that I haven't, it's because I got like tons of them. So when I open this one up, I'm like, wow. And I sent an email because I like to find out more about this. So any of you folks that hear this, maybe you're in the chat room, maybe you're gonna, listen to this later. Give me a comment. Let me know what your take is on that, because I'd like to know more about this. I found it to be very fascinating. So thank you for that. Thanks for coming in. Again, I started late, got my power back. Thank you. Again, for those of you, if you're joining late, hey man, if you live in that belt line that got hit with those tornadoes, Missouri, Arkansas, and a few others. Krista and Brandy are fine, but they had a lot of devastation around where they live. They're okay. So I started the show late because I got my power back. So thanks for coming in. I got a couple more for you. But what I got, it's just about, this is something that took place in the Daniel Boone National Forest. It's about an alleged paranormal Bigfoot of some sort that I got that I'm going to share with you guys. But before I go, please hit that like button while you're sitting. I Two Shadows, good to see you. 86, good to see you. I've got to step away for just a quick second and get a water, because when I'm going solo and I just told a 30-minute story, I'm parched. Just give me 30 seconds. BMR will be back in just a minute. You know, everybody, for a guy that's been doing this show for almost going on, well, over 3 years now, you think I'd be better prepared in my water on side, especially when I'm by myself. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that. Leave a comment. Thanks for coming on in. So yeah, here's another one for you guys. Thanks for tuning in late night. This takes place in the Daniel Boone National Forest. And I'm going to get on with this for you guys. So this guy opens up this email and he goes on and tells me that, Rob, man, I had this quite an incredible experience. And he says this took place in June of 2011 when he was hiking in the Daniel Boone National Forest. He goes on to say, hey, Rob, man, I was by myself and I was just taking in a beautiful day, spending my time, as he says, out here in God's country. Rob, I was well prepared for the day, he goes on to explain to me. He says that he had a fully stocked backpack full of dried food, plenty of water, this, that, and the other that he brought along. He also brought along a small caliber sidearm just to feel safe, as he always had done when he went out hiking. And he went on to say that I always just felt safer. And he says, to be honest, he goes, you know, Rob, it's not that he was necessarily afraid of the predators of the forest, but this guy just says, you know, the human element. He goes on to tell me about he's just scared of the human element. And then he says he's more scared of human beings than actual wildlife. So I'm like, okay, that's cool, whatever. What he was doing, you guys, he was looking for a spot out in the forest of the Daniel Boone to come back later in the month. Because what he was planning on doing, he was doing some recon to find a site to go camping with his eldest son that had just turned 15 or 16, I think he was telling me. He wanted to have a nice weekend, you know, with his son, and I get that. That's cool. Cool bonding time, camping. And he says, Rob, I brought along with me a decent Canon camera. He says his camera was fully charged, and he was taking pictures. It also was one of the cameras that could do recordings, short videos, this, that, and the other. We all know what these are. While he was out traversing about the countryside, right, or the park. He goes on to say that after about an hour or so on the trail, he decided to be just a little bit more adventurous, and then he wanders off trail for a couple miles to get a little different experience. Because I guess according to this guy that he typically, when he went hiking, he never went off trail. He was always a stickler to stick on the trail. And just that's where he felt most comfortable. Okay. Then he goes on to tell me that, of course, you know, Rob, before I left for the day, a few buddies had told him that since he was going hiking alone, it would be wise to stick to his plan of staying on trail, again, since being by himself. Which, by the way, everybody, and I guess I flip flop with this. You guys can leave a comment on this. I don't know. I think that if you're familiar with the trails where you live, I think it's cool if you want to get up early in the morning and hike by yourself. I don't have any problem with that. I mean, I don't. I mean, I think it's fine. Many of you do it. And I don't think it's an issue. I kind of question a person, though, that hikes a familiar trail all the time. And if you've never ventured off trail and just cut into and made your own trail per se, I don't know if that's advisable by yourself. I think it's adventurous and I recommend it, but I do recommend you do that, with a few friends, right? I mean, that's just me. It should be, you got to be safety out in the woods. I don't care if you've been in a forest for 20 years and know it like the back of your hands or your hand, I should say. I still think, you got to be precautionary. That's just my 2 cents on that. But anyways, but again, he remembers what his friends told him. And he goes, Rob, I felt a little defiant. So I just decided to go against what my friends reminded me of and what I have always was a stickler with. So he decided to do the opposite. So this guy, everybody, decides to go off trail. He goes, Rob, quite honestly, I wanted to go off trail and tell my friends, yeah, see, I made it back in one piece, so to speak. So he actually came fully prepared. He brings like a machete with him and he goes off trail and he's cutting through the overgrown brush. He was cutting through this area. Then he finally came upon him and he finally gets through all this brush off trail, creating his own pathway, as he says. And he comes upon this meadow as he emerges from his newly shaped trail. He says his meadow was kind of wide open. And he says, as he's in this meadow, he looks across the meadow and he says, approximately maybe 100 yards away or so, started up the tree line, against this meadow, right? So he starts panning his camera. He's panning his camera at the tree line from the meadow when he stopped and he focuses in on a rather big tree stump, as he says. No particular reason why he stopped at the tree stump. He just kind of got it into focus and he's looking at it. He says, hey, Rob, the tree stump was perhaps maybe 4 feet high. And he says, Rob, the width of this was maybe another 4 feet wide. So sizable. So he started taking pictures of this stump. And then he starts snapping off other pictures all around the vicinity of the stump, the tree line. Now he comes back and his focus is now back on this stump after doing a panoramic taking of pictures. And then he says, Rob, there's something that I couldn't believe now as I get back to this stump. He's questioning his vision as he says something really started to materialize from this stump as he's viewing it through this Canon camera. So he starts firing off more pictures. Then he says to his amazement, this stump seemed to get taller and metamorphosize in what to be a very hairy animal. So for everybody listening, everybody in the chat room, we've heard similar stories about stumps materializing into Bigfoot. I've heard it many times Many of you have heard this, but this guy's telling me this. So I'm like, wow, as I'm reading on through the email. Now it's a tall, hairy figure, person perhaps, right? So he goes on to say that at first he thought it was a bear. Then he realizes as he pans in a little bit closer, as far as he can zoom in with his camera, that the bear had a human-like face. Thank you, Paranormal Oz. I'm not really looking at chat, you guys, when I tell these. It's the way I roll because I try to concentrate. But I saw that. Thanks, Oz. Thanks to all of you for coming in. I appreciate you guys. Leave me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new. So anyway, this bear now, what you thought at first was a bear, has this human-like face. He says this humanoid now, as he throws out that word, everybody, humanoid, was brown with long, shaggy hair. And he says that as he's looking at this human-looking face, he says, Rob, it was kind of creepy that it seems like when he's looking through the lens of his Canon camera, that the face was looking directly back at him. And he says, through the lens of the camera, him and this being, whatever you want to call it, they made eye contact. He goes on to tell me that the height of this creature, this person, whatever you want to call it, doesn't really say Bigfoot at this time. He had to have been taller than the average human man, perhaps 7 foot tall, and it looked very powerful. And then he says, Rob, this part of the story gets even more unbelievable. He says this being, whatever you want to call it, seemed to fade away and almost had like a glimmering sheen to it. Hi, Freaky. Hi, Mike Hunt. How you guys all doing? So now he says, Rob, I switched to video. So we all know about these cameras. You can do camera, you can do video, you can do pictures. So he switches now to video. And he says, Rob, immediately when I changed from taking pictures, still pictures, to video, he says that a deer came into view. Now he's taking a video of this deer now coming into view. Hey, Rags. He says about several seconds into this video, he says that this deer that he picks up seemed to be grabbed up from the ground. A good 5 feet it's up off the ground, he says, into the air. And it was whisked away into the woods. The strange thing is that there was nothing else surrounding the deer. It just kind of was whisked up 5 feet from the ground. Now, whisked up, I'm sorry, you guys. It was elevated 5 feet like it was grabbed. Then it was whisked away into the woods. So this guy is telling me that he gasps, he can't believe this. He loses some breath. He just cannot believe what he had witnessed. He goes, since he was taking pictures earlier on and then he switched over to the filming, he decides that he immediately stops what he's doing, stops all of his actions, stops the filming, stops taking pictures, and he looks to find a place to sit down and review what he had captured. whether it was from the video, of course, or the pictures. So he's sitting down, going through his camera, and he says, "Yes, Rob. Here's the thing." He says the stump was there, visible, the original stump from what I talked about earlier in the story. He says, however, when the stump rose up, as he's seen, right, it was very blurry. And it kind of disappeared from the frame of the picture. So now he says, well, wow, that's odd. So now he's kind of fast forwarding through his camera. Now he's looking for the video of the deer that seemed to be suspended off of the ground, right? And then whisked away and disappearing back into the tree line outside of this meadow. And he found nothing. He found nothing. He goes on to say, man, Rob, I'm very disappointed. I said, I can't believe this. How is this out of the frames? How come I can't see any of these other abnormal images? He says, well, I decided to pack up my gear. I decided to get home, and he decides to go and thoroughly investigate the video back at the house, right? He says, Rob, I went by frame, picture by picture, and just found nothing. However, where he thought in the moments that he captured on his camera, when he thought he's seen the image materialize into a person, a hairy person with a human face, the image where the deer was kind of lifted and whisked away. When it got to those areas and elements in the camera, the pictures were blurry and the video was static. And then, of course, he goes on to say, you know, Rob, I've heard stories and saw different shows or whatever and heard about that term, which you guys, I really hate this term, but the blob squatch. I mean, it's thrown out there every day, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. He goes, I've heard of the blob squatch. He goes, I've also heard about power or battery failures where you would have a battery charged 100%, then all of a sudden you come across something strange where all of a sudden your battery is boom, shot, dissipates, right, very rapidly. But he says, how come I couldn't see the deer? He goes, I get it. Maybe if it was a Sasquatch, that maybe that's what happens. He says, but I've never heard the occasion where a deer, a creature that exists full frame, how come that was stagnant? How come I couldn't get a picture or a video of that? That was all gone as well. He says, Rob, I know that the deer was absolutely for real, but now he questions whether or not what he's seen was actual evidence of an alleged Bigfoot, right? He goes, since this has happened to him, he's definitely become a, enthusiast, this, that, and the other when it comes to Bigfoot. And of course, now, as he mentions, the paranormal. And he continues on going to the National Boone, or the National Boone. Sorry, guys, the Daniel Boone National Forest as much as he possibly can. So, okay, you guys, you heard that story, and it's always convenient. I mean, this happens all the time, right? We've heard that, maybe not quite a story like that, but we've all heard about, you think you're capturing something on video, goes static. It somehow mysteriously disappears from our video, or you get the quote unquote blob squatch picture. Well, I do know this. I think the guy saw Bigfoot. I think that what he's seen, I think, is for sure happened, because it seems like every person you talk to, at least people I've spoken with, and the other things and other people that I've other videos that I've watched or shows, always seems to happen. And I think that's a part of the makeup of the Sasquatch, right? I think that they purposely can alter with their energy. I think it's an energy thing. My personal belief, take it or leave it. I mean, I'm not a professional. I don't know. But it seems like all too often that this happens. I think that the Bigfoot, part of their makeup, part of their protection, their camouflage, that they can't alter through their own energy. Our equipment, right? That's my take on that one. I thought it was a good story. I believe this guy. I've heard too many stories that are similar, and hundreds. You guys have heard them too. It does seem to happen. And thanks to everybody for coming in. Really briefly, I do want to thank. Why I missed this one? Sean, is that a new? It looks like thanks for the hard work. Blah blah blah. This is from Sean. Thank you to Sean for your awesome super chat. Thank you to Christy Sci-Fi for your generous and awesome super chat. Mark Z Hammer and Maggie, you're all very generous. I do appreciate that. Not expected, always appreciated. You can also become a BMR pirate. Mateys, join today. Join the many, join the few, right? And hello to everybody. If you're new, please subscribe. So I've got and here's I can't really read the chat. Here's another Hive live blah blah blah. There are freakies out there. Here's a new person. H Live Psy. Hey, how you doing? Thanks for coming on in. So I got this other one, you guys, and this is a pretty creepy one. And it's about the guy who was telling me about these red eyes followed him home. Red eyes followed this guy home. And this took place, according to this person, June 8th. He gives me an exact date of 2008. Summertime. And this takes place in Rockford, Illinois at the Rock Cut State Park. I thought this was cool. I just pulled this up. The date of this email was in 2023. So yeah, I'm pretty bad with opening emails. People probably think I'm an a-hole, right? I got hundreds that I haven't opened since I started doing this 3-4 years ago. And I thought this was intriguing because I spent 90 days. I took a way back when I was in my early 20s. Good old BMR actually lived in Rockford, Illinois. Yeah, I did a 90-day contract with this company when I got out of school. And so I thought it was cool. I kind of liked Rockford. And yes, a lot of woods around Rockford. I wasn't really into Bigfoot, in my 20s. I was just into working and making money, right? So I didn't dabble in it. As a young guy, as you guys all know me by now, yes, always love monsters, this, that, and the other. I always mention watching, Leonard Nimoy In Search of, and yes, I knew about the Gimlin film. And yes, I, as a 20-year-old, thought Bigfoot probably did exist. Simply because of things in the paranormal world that I experienced, including a UFO from the age of 6, right? So I believe Wasn't a knower like I am today, though. So I'm going to get on with this, you guys, and thanks for coming in. So it goes on to say, my name is Bill. My wife is Judy, residents of Rockford. Goes on to tell me that the state park is less than 7 miles from their home. Starting back in 2001, I believe, what was I said, Judy and what's the names here? I forgot the names. Let me think what I say. Bill and Judy, okay. Bill and Judy. The state park's 7 miles from their home. So they visited this park all the time to go camping and getting some fishing. It became, actually, guys, this became one of their favorite spots to go because of, number one, the close proximity of their home, and frankly, this park is some of the best scenery, as he said, in Rockford. Again, I've been to Rockford. I'm not familiar with this park because, again, that wasn't my thing. I just worked, right? He said the drive along the park line was lined with beautiful pine and spruce trees, and it was always lush, very, very pretty. And Rockford, Illinois, by the way, I will make mention of this. Rockford, Illinois is about as far north in Illinois you can go before you hit Wisconsin. I live like less than 10 miles from the Wisconsin border, and that really, really turns into nothing but the woods for where I stayed for, again, 90 days. He went on to say that the husband and wife team here, they love going in June and October, where they're two were the 2 months that they like to go camping. The other months, sure, they would go on the trail and hike the trails and stay in shape, this, that, and the other. They just love the outdoors. So they're two outdoors people. In fact, what they really, says, Rob, if I'm going to be honest with you, what we love about this park is, in fact, it's where this guy and Judy, while hiking, they ran into each other on the trail. And this story takes place in 2008, but he says, hey, Rob, I found Judy in 2001 hiking this trail. And they met up, they fell in love, and they got married. So yeah, it's a pretty cool story. They're out hiking on the trail. Hey, they both have a lot of things in common. They bump into each other on trail. They start dating. Hey, they get married. So that's pretty cool. He says, Rob, the years of 2002 through 2007, again, during their camping at this rock cut state park, was nothing less than spectacular. Beautiful, he says. He says, Rob, these were the best years of our early marriage. In fact, 1 year after meeting on trail, they got married within a year and spent all their time hiking this area. He says, though, however, something changed. Something changed during the summer of 2008. He says, that summer, we were forced to find another spot to set up their camp. They were disappointed that they had to move from this camping area because they eventually started camping, you guys, off trail as well. And in their camping area, they had to move due to the fact that the state had decided to construct a welcome center and built a 200-foot tower and an observatory. So they're off along with Judy to find a new spot. After several weeks of exploring, they came across a beautiful location 10 miles north of their original location. He says that Rob, a creek ran through the spot. It had a trail, and it was very heavily traversed by deer roaming the area. Nature was in abundance. Wildlife was in abundance. The creek was a great source for them as they caught a lot of trout. As fisher folks, they caught trout. Went on to say a lot of nice smallmouth bass. And what they did when they went hiking and camping, you guys, when they were in the forest, they brought minimal provisions. They expected to kind of, they're not roughing it, but they like to, take in nature and live off the land. So they try to catch fish on a daily basis and prepare their meals, which I think is cool. And I think that's awesome personally. So cool for them. They always travel lightly, as he says, when they went camping. But yeah, he goes on to say, we brought some small dry foods, this, that, and the other, in case we didn't catch any fish. They didn't hunt. They normally went out hiking and camping in the off hunting season. Okay. They, in fact, he even goes on to tell me they didn't even bring a lot of water because they have this water filtration. They like to drink the water from the stream, and they filtered it. So they kind of tried to make it a little adventurous, a little rugged, if you will. So good for them. So they're an adventurous couple, loves the outdoors, loves hiking, this, that, and the other. He says his wife Judy always just wanted to be one with Mother Nature. So he says, okay, Rob, we're disappointed. They put in this observatory. We've got to move on. And they found that new location. So he says, hey, now it's time that he and the wife christen their new area, their new site. So they planned on about a week long trail, a hike and camp in, again, June of 2008. The first morning, they spent the entire day fishing, enjoying the scenery, saw a bunch of deer, this, that, and the other. And they said, Rob, this is just became, wow, they were lucky. They're kind of happy. At first, they were mad they had to move out from their old site. But this first week of camping, they said, Rob, this is perfect. This is almost better than before. So a negative was kind of turning into a positive for this couple. Day one was perfect. Hi, Hillbilly Herb. Hey, Timo. What's up, Timo? Good to see you. Riley and Ron. So it says the following morning they got up and they went back to their fishing spot. The day felt very strange. That second day, for whatever the reason, it was also an overcast day. There was a slight drizzle started to come down. Unlike the previous day, they didn't see any deer. And it was just a total opposite day. Judy tells the husband that she felt that across the creek from where they were camping, that there was something there. There was something out there. She got this feeling something was peering in on them, watching them. And this guy, what's his name? I forgot the name, you guys. I can't remember all these names. John, I guess. We'll call him John until it comes back to memory. He goes on to tell Judy, he's, believe it or not, honey, I got this same feeling. And he says, you know what? It's probably both our imaginations. It's a dreary day. It's a drab day, unlike the first day. And our thoughts are not our own, right? Forget about it. But after an hour goes by, and they both now this presence that they felt of being watched, it got more prevalent, more extreme. And this went on for several days now, as he says, and it got stronger with each and every day that passed by. He goes, now the feeling of being watched or looked in on, it turned into something more foreboding and something more ominous. However, this couple, they're troopers. They're not going to let anything wreck their new location. They kept about their camping. They kept about their fishing, and they just wanted to make it perfect. Thank you, Two Shadows. Two Shadows with an awesome super chat. Thank you so much. Super chat's not expected, you guys. I certainly appreciate and love you guys. You're awesome. Thank you. You're all awesome, regardless of super chats, that, and the other. Coming in 2 o'clock in the morning, listen to me. I feel the love. And I thank and appreciate all you guys. Hitting that like button would be awesome as well. Thank you so much. So, back to the story. This couple, they want to keep about what they do, right? They're in love. They love the outdoors. Despite being watched, feeling like they're being watched, every day it gets worse. They have that ominous, foreboding feeling. They're powering through it, you guys. I know a lot of people say, screw this, I'm getting the hell out of here. And I get it. I respect it. But these people, they're moving on. So they finished out their week. Yeah, they didn't have a good time. Let's not mince words here. They spent that week, you guys, and the fact that they felt like somebody was watching them, they just, when they're at the end of the week, they leave. Now they're driving home. Now, this is where this story really gets ominous. This couple is now driving home. Driving home, the majority of the trip back home is from the campsite is on either sides of the road, is lined with the woods. The wood line is on both sides of their vehicle for most of the trip back. The drive starts out very peaceful, John and Judy, they're talking about, wow, I can't believe how weird we felt that we're being watched. But then they talked about the good times, the good parts of it. Thank you, Dr. Fox, for the awesome super sticker. Dr. Fox, good to see you. If you're new, please subscribe. $1.49 from Dr. Fox. Thank you so much. Thank you. So anyway, yeah, they're driving home, talking about, the events and this, that, and the other. And this couple also they also in Rockford, Illinois, where they also live in the woods. So when they're driving home, really the roadways and the pathway to get from this new forest, it pretty much, you guys, the pathway takes them right to their house. I mean, these folks live in the woods, which is pretty cool, right? So again, back to their drive home. They're driving, as he says to me, "Hey, Rob, now on this roadway, you got to be very cautious." He says the speed limit is maybe 20 or 25 miles an hour for a lot of the travel. So he makes sure he's keeping the speed limit where it should be for safety. And now all of a sudden, as he's driving, something overtakes this guy. He felt a presence while driving home, mind you, that now he's being watched despite driving from inside of the vehicle. He says, "Rod, I can't put my finger on this, but it seems like something was following from the tree line, from the woods, while he's driving with the wife back to the house." And he says, "I'm doing 25 miles an hour and I have this presence. And whatever this presence is that he can feel, it's keeping up with the vehicle. Can't see anything, just has this foreboding, ominous feeling." He says, "Man, Rob, I feel absurd." He goes, he says, "Well, this camping trip just really got to me. First, we're camping and feel like we're being watched. Now we're driving miles away from the campsite, 25 miles an hour. Now he gets this feeling he's being watched from inside his own car driving through the woods." Then all of a sudden, he turns to his wife, Judy. John does. And Judy says to John, "Stop the truck or stop driving." She goes on to tell her husband that something in the woods has been following us. So, if we take a little step back, this guy is thinking he's being followed, being watched, driving in the vehicle. He's keeping it to himself, you guys. Now, the wife out of the blue tells him, the husband, John, "Honey, stop the truck. Something in the woods," her words, "has been following us." So now this guy is like, "Whoa." And he goes, "Yeah," and she shouted at me like she was concerned. She literally yelled at the husband, right? He goes, "Man, Rob, I felt like my gut had been punched." Him and the wife were on the same wavelength without even speaking. He's creeped out. He didn't even mention that he felt the same thing until the wife verbalized it, right? So they stop, they get out of the truck, and they look into the woods. "Rob, we're looking 10 minutes into this wood line. We're stopped." They're at their wits' end, right? Then all of a sudden, Judy yells out to Bill or John, whatever his name is. Sorry, guys, I forgot. Look there." So John looks towards the tree line and he says, "Maybe perhaps 10, maybe 10 feet or so, he saw two massive red eyes staring back at them from the wood line as they're stopped, as they're parked, as they're peering into the woods. Two massive red eyes. Nothing like he's ever seen. Glowing red eyes. And I'm imagining, if I don't remember part of this, and they're driving home during the daytime. That would be creepy. Red eyes during the day. Red eyes, period, would be creepy, right? If you don't know what the animal is. And at this time, too, they're both out of the truck, too. When they get these eyes, you guys stop the truck, they get out of the truck, and they're like on foot, and they're kind of looking around. So John sees the red eyes. He urges Judy to get back into the truck. And they get out, they get back in, they start driving. Rob, I kid you not, he says, the red eyes are paralleling the truck. As they're driving, the red eyes would not leave their sight. It kind of roamed, paralleled them as they're driving, in focus, in sight, red eyes, going the same speed of the vehicle, whatever speed they're driving, keeping up. He goes, Rob, we get up back to 20 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour, the stated speed limit. The red eyes are still there in the woods, like it's boom. So now he says, Rob, we get less than 15 minutes now to their home. Now, if you guys remember, they live in the woods, and this entire trip back and forth during this roadway, this highway, interstate, whatever verbiage you want to use, it's all woods, all the way home to their house. It's in the woods in Rockford, Illinois. They're 15 minutes from home, and now these red eyes are kind of, they don't notice the red eyes. Finally, as they're getting close to home, they're kind of like, they do one of these, wipe their brow, whatever. Good, they're gone. And then for one last moment, the red eyes appeared again prior to getting home. He says, maybe I've got another 8 minutes from home. And he says, F this. And he floors the car, forgets about the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, and he opens up his truck to 40, 45 miles an hour. And he says he's just getting the hell out of there. To his amazement, the red eye still was within sight and keeping up at 40 plus miles an hour, paralleling the vehicle as he's getting closer to home. 45 miles per hour. Then the eyes disappear. It's another 8 minutes, 7 minutes before they get home. They finally pull up in their driveway. They get home. Red eyes have been gone for like the last several miles. Apprehensive, yet they're still relieved that the red eyes they hadn't seen for a little while yet, right? They're both still on edge, Judy and John. And they bolt into their house. He says, Rob, we were just so unnerved by this entire experience, from being in the woods, camping, feeling like they're being watched, and now the red eye experience traveling with them damn near all the way home really got to them. They got out of their car, left all their crap in their vehicle, and just went inside their house. He says, screw it. We'll unpack in the morning. They get home, they settle down into their home. They're still up, though. They're still really unnerved. So Judy goes in and she makes coffee, And I imagine it's still probably evening time or afternoon time. I think they left the campsite in the morning, which was the other crazy thing, as I mentioned earlier. You see these red eyes, you guys, during daytime. Now, of course, in the woods, it's dark, it's overcast, it's dusky. I get it. You can, but still, the penetration of red during day, eh, you know, the woods aren't that dark during the day. They're full of light. The sun does rip through the trees, right? So that would be scary for me, I would think. But anyways, so they make some coffee and they go outside and they're sitting around and they go on their deck. They go on their porch. They have a wraparound porch, she says, in the middle of the woods, 360-degree view of the wood line, everything else. And they're sitting there having their coffee and they're going over the entire trip. He says our house sits in the middle of a half-acre lot. The woods on the north, on the east, on the south, surrounded, right? He goes, Rob, we're so embedded in the forest that you have to literally drive about 20 minutes south of the house, he says, before you get out of the wood line to get into like modern day America civilization. So they're deep out there, you guys. They're deep into the woods. So they get done finishing up drinking their coffee. And it's been a long day. It might be early, late afternoon. And they decide, we're exhausted. So much rambling through their minds. They're going to try to get some sleep. They get up, ready for bed or do whatever they're going to do. And they take one last look out into their backyard, into their surrounding environment. The glowing red eyes appeared from the wood line from their house. Eyes are sitting there blazing red, hovering 4 or 5 feet above the ground, back in the depths of the tree line. Judy and John are paralyzed with fear, as he says to me in the email. The eyes appear to get closer, like it's advancing toward their home. As the red eyes are advancing, they seem to get taller. Or, in other words, the 4 foot from the tree line, they seem to go up a few notches in feet. Then, right at the base or the edge of the wood line, coming out from the edge, is a figure standing there, standing tall, peering in at them. It was about maybe 4 or 5 feet outside the tree line. A humanoid looking figure. Can't make it out. Can't make it out, he says. The red eyes was predominant, but it was a humanoid figure standing, peering at both of Judy and John. Then it got a little closer. And now he's making out the frame, and it looked like an animal. It looked like an animal of a wolf. It looked like a wolf on its hind legs. He said it was very thin. It wasn't robust. We all hear about the stories about Dogman werewolves being, muscular in stature. He says this thing was thin, frail, bony in appearance, almost like he was emaciated, right? Very, very weak, feeble. from the shadowy image. Standing upright, he says, though, and it was getting closer. He says as it gets closer, he can definitely make the distinguish. He could distinguish it out now that it was not a human. It appeared to be some sort of wolf-like creature. He says, but it was just kind of odd. It was a misshapen head. First thing he thinks is wolf. Then he knows, Rob, there ain't no wolves in Rockford, Illinois, at least in his parts. But again, it didn't even have the stature of a wolf, even if it was on four legs, because it was very thin and odd looking. Then he said, Rob, all of a sudden it turned around and raced back into the woods. And right when it entered the tree line, for the very first time, let off a god-awful scream and yelp, almost like a coyote. That's what he says. He goes, yeah, that's what I experienced. The red eyes followed me home. Some sort of creature, whatever it was. Rob, we don't have wolves in these parts, as he says again. The next morning, he gets up and he goes to the tree line where he saw this entity, this wolf, whatever the hell it was, he says. He wanted to do some investigation. Still frantic, still scared, didn't sleep a wink. Now he decides, hey, look, I got to go investigate. This is going to be unending for my wife and I. So he went out toward the tree line to where this apparent creature, whatever you want to call it, emerged. Then he went out and did some investigating and looked around. He says, Rob, I didn't find no signs of anything really unnatural. I didn't find any tracks, any footprints. There's no broken foliage that emerged from the tree line. Nothing. He says he walked 20 yards into the tree line, looking around into the woods, just looking around. What I'm looking for, he says to me, I don't know, but I'm just looking. I have no idea what I'm looking for, but I need answers of some sort. Went back to the house. Him and Judy, again, went over their trip, their travels, their camping, what they saw, what they didn't see. They questioned themselves today. He says, I will tell you this, though, Rob. As I said, we're troopers. And these guys are troopers, you guys, because in closing, what this guy tells me is they didn't move on. They still hike. They still camp. And they feel better because as the years have gone on here, they've not seen it again, whatever it is. I don't know how old they are today. I think he said he's 53 today now. So, but they haven't seen it. They don't know what it was, what it is. It's, Rob, we are not these people that are paranormal. We're not into Bigfoot. And of course, like everybody we all know, when you come across something and you're not familiar with cryptids, yeah, I went online, did this, that, and the other. That's how I found you on YouTube, he says to me later. But yeah, not scared. Today we're not scared because every year that goes by, we don't see anything. Still like to know what it is, he says. So, but he says at least once every couple months, you'll still hear that crazy, creepy yelp that he says sound like a coyote the night that he saw this creature advance back into the woods. He goes, I do know this creature watched me and my wife fish, camp, knows it followed home. He knows what this creature, he knows that this creature knows where they live. He ain't moving. He's still not giving up, as I said, his hunting or his camping. And yeah. So he goes, yep. The strange thing is we're not moving. We don't have that feeling of being watched anymore. So in conclusion, he says, do you think that this creature got what it wanted out of us? It scared us, and that was it? I gave him my reply back. I'll give you my reply. We've all heard about werewolves, dogman, this, that, and the other. When it comes to the dogman creature, I don't know what this was, you guys. Dogman, I don't know what this is. I can't tell you what this is. But I do know this because for most of you that, follow my show or watch other shows, isn't it kind of weird? I like data. I'm big on data. And don't you guys think that the number one goal of again, I hate to say this is the dogman, but let's just roll with the dogman for a moment. Don't you think the number one goal of the dogman, from a lot of the things that you've heard, LBL aside, of course, I think their primary function is to scare the hell out of us. I think their primary function is to tell us, yes, I can get you. I can eat you, right? I am the dominant factor here. Because you really don't hear much about people really getting, unalived, as you have to see on YouTube typically. Again, outside of the LBL. Because I got to tell you, I don't hear of many people. I hear mainly these things are just creepy assholes, man, that like to scare the shit out of us, to be frank, That's my belief with these cryptids, dogmen, I think the werewolf's a different story altogether. But and I can't. And hey, listen, leave a comment. I don't know what this was. Part of me says dogman, but shapeshifter, skinwalker, maybe. I don't know. I wasn't there. I did not experience it, and I just think that a lot of these things, hell, it could have been nothing. It could have been just some paranormal entity that just captured these folks who are in the wrong place at the wrong time, There's so many avenues we can go, and that's why I love doing these. I love sharing these stories, the encounters. I love doing my channel. I love doing the stuff with the girls, the blondes, and Tex. I love presenting this to you guys, and I must say I appreciate each and every single one of you that come on in and listen, whether you listen to replay or watch this later or come to the chat room. You guys all rock. You make my day. We've got over 60 people in here at 2:30 in the morning for a show that I would have done way earlier, but I got my power. I had lost power today. I wanted to do something, and I appreciate you guys. I want to thank you guys once again for the folks that for Sean. Sean, hey Sean, how you doing? That's another Sean, Christy, Mark, Maggie, Two Shadows, Dr. Fox. Thank you for the support with the super chat. Jojo, thank you, Jojo, for an awesome super chat as well. Love you guys. Give me a thumbs up on your way out. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. That's what helps grow the channel. Leave a comment also helps. And yeah, it's 2:30, 2:35. We did it. You're here. I love and appreciate you guys. Let's see what's tonight. Well, it's Sunday morning now for me. I will be back. Texas on Monday. I'll be back Tuesday night. Josh Churn will be joining me. We're talking werewolves. That'll be a cool show. And then, hey, turn on the alert bells. Subscribe to Texas Front Porch, the Blondes and the Booze, Bigfoot, Michigan, Rob. Well, I'm wound up. I'm not going to be able to go to bed for another hour. I always get wound up after a show, especially when you guys show the love and you show the support. I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you for coming on in. And all I need to do here is look for the button. We promote that. We've been promoting the hell out of our conference September 19th and 20th. If you're new here, check out this closeout promo video. And for those of you that have seen it, I know you're going to shut it off, but love you. Have a great week, rest of your weekend. And I'm BMR. Thank you.
This is the future. Evolution.
The Crossing Realms Conference launches September 19th and 20th and will dock in Richmond, Missouri. This is already being called the event of the year, folks, with an unprecedented list of speakers and special guests, 2 days of cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal presentations, along with a celebrity-filled ghost hunt, meet and greet, gallery reading, vendors, and a film screening. This promises to be both educational and fun. Go to eventbrite.com to secure your tickets and vendor slots before they are all abducted. They're going fast.